Namaskar. Welcome to this session. We are considering the Siddhis of Vibhuti Pada of Patanjali Yoga Sutras, and therein we are coming to the second Siddhi, which is Sarva Bhuta Jnanam. Sarva Bhuta Jnanam. That is Sutra 3.17. Sarva Bhuta Jnanam means knowledge of not only all languages, but languages of all living beings. All Bhuta Matras, that is all living beings. So, the yogi is able to understand the language of all the beings. So this is a kind of Siddhi. So all the subhuman beings, superhuman beings, they have their languages. Animals, birds, insects, worms, beasts, birds, they have their own languages. Even the botanical life also has its own language. Then there are languages of the celestial deities, languages of beings of other planes of creation. Now, yogi is not able to understand all languages of the world, but he can understand the languages of Pashu, pakshi, prani. He understands the languages of Pashu, pakshi and prani, kitak, worms, insects, etc. and even the plants and trees. Now, here Patanjali says Sarva Bhuta Jnanam. So he doesn't say all languages. Now we will understand why yogi may not be able to understand the languages of human beings. There are so many languages on the planet. May not understand all those languages, but will understand languages of all the other creatures and all other lives. Now, once we go into the sutra, we will understand why is this that yogi may not understand a foreign language, may not understand language of another person, but he can understand language of all birds, animals, creatures, insects, etc. So, the sutra that is going to tell us about how this Siddhi comes about will also divulge why yogis may not be able to understand the other languages of human beings, but languages of all beings, all the other beings. There are hundreds and thousands of languages on the planet. It is not necessary that human beings should understand all those languages. But yogis can really understand the language of the mind of man. Yogis will be able to understand the language of human beings, or the language of the mind, although not the oratory language. Anyway, so this is an interesting Siddhi that is coming up. Now, about languages are of sound forms. Now let us try to understand a little bit about human language. Human language is for human organ of speech. Human organ of speech, according to the Adhyatma, Paramartha, spiritual sciences, there are 4 planes of speech called Para, Pashyanti, Madhyama, Vaikhari. They express language by the oratory system is called Vaikhari, which is the sound form. What underlies the Vaikhari is Madhyama, and what underlies Madhyama is Pashyanti, and what underlies Pashyanti is Para. So the esoteric anatomy tells us that Vaikhari is from the mouth, and we know where is the mouth. It is below the nostrils. We have the mouth below the nostrils. And that is the mouth through which we are able to speak our language, because the language is of sound forms. So the vocal organ produces the sounds, and that is therefore the location of Vaikhari, the mouth. Below the mouth we have throat. And the throat is said to be locus for the second form of speech called Madhyama. Below that throat is the heart region, and the Pashyanti, the third form of speech, is said to be having locus in the heart region. And then the fourth one, the para is in the belly, abdominal region or the navel region. So there is so much of structure of speech which is divulged by Adhyatma Shastra. Para, Pashyanti, Madhyama, Vaikhari are the 4 phases through which the speech comes up. And the root of it is Para, is said to be in the navel region, the locus of that Para. And it is said in Adhyatma that Para Vani realization, the root of all speech, if that is realized, then that is liberation itself, according to Vyakarana Darshanam. Anyway, the point is that human language comes through these 4 stages, and we don't understand. We only understand there is always a thought behind the speech, or there is a tendency behind the speech, or there is subconscious behind the speech. That's all we can understand today. But however, philosophy inquires deeper into it and tells us about the structure of human language. Now, when it comes to human language, the strange thing is that man has exceptional condition in human speech. That is, there can be gross incompatibility, lack of fidelity between the speech and mind. This is unique condition to mankind. And that's why you can have one thing in the mind and something else in your speech. Or you can have one thing in the mind and diametrically opposite in your speech, and vice versa. So, the human psyche has this unique trait to be deceiving and to be deceptive. No being is as untrustworthy, untrustable, so lacking in credibility as much as the human being is. Or the human being is most evolved being on the planet. It cannot be brushed aside. Human being is the most credibility less being on the planet. Because what is in the mind and what is in the speech can be two different things. What is in the mind and what is in the action can be two different things and can be sometimes diametrically opposite as well. The point is, the human being is most untrustworthy person, and the creator could not create more credence-less being than human being. And therefore, Patanjali speaks about Sarva Bhuta Jnanam, but he doesn't say all languages of human being. It is because human being can be deceiving in a language. But about the other beings, they do not have this lack of fidelity or incompatibility. Their sounds will always represent their mind. What is in the mind will come in their sounds. There won't be no lack of fidelity or lack of compatibility. But that's not the case of human being. This must be understood. That is why in one of the Shanti mantras, the prayer goes, Vang me manasi pratisthita, mano me vachi pratishtitam. Let my mind be established in speech and speech be established in mind. It is because of incompatibility and lack of fidelity. And if you recall, when we are dealing with the truth, in the sense Satya is Vang Manasi. Both organ of speech and mind must have fidelity when it comes to Satya. You can speak the truth, but that doesn't mean that there must be compatibility between the mind and speech. And therefore, Satya is not speaking the truth. And speaking the truth is not complete Satya. Satya needs fidelity between the speech and mind. Anyway, that is why Patanjali excludes human being and just says Sarva Bhuta Jnanam, which implies exclusion of mankind, exclusion of human being. Yogis might be able to read the human mind, but yogis will not depend upon the human language. It is because human being can deceive in their speech and through their speech, because there is a lack of trust in human speech and human sounds. But there is not that case with other beings. So how does this Siddhi come about? Patanjali says in his Sutra, Shabdartha Pratyayanam Itaretara Adhyasat Tat Sankaras Tat Pravibhaga Samyamat Sarva Bhuta Jnanam. So there is a Samyama, Tat Samyamat. So it is Samyamatmaka Siddhi. There must be Samyama. Samyama on what? So the earlier part of the Sutra tells us, Shabdartha Pratyayanam Itaretara Adhyasat Tat Sankaraha. Then Tat Pravibhaga Samyamat. When there is a division made between all that mix up between what? Shabda, Artha, Pratyaya. When there is a division and overcoming all mix up, then That is the locus for samyama, and samyama on that division is Sarva Bhuta, is going to give Sarva Bhuta Jnanam. So, what is this that the aphorist is trying to tell us? Basically, you will have to understand the sutra by the part by part here. First of all, Shabdartha Pratyayanam. What is Shabdartha Pratyayanam? That is Shabda, Artha and Pratyaya. Shabda means word. The word that we utter through our oral organ. All languages are made up of words. There is no language without words. And then the words have meaning. There is no language which has a word without a meaning, and there is no language where the meaning doesn't have corresponding word. So there is always word and its meaning, the words and their meanings. When it comes to human language, or any language for that matter. But merely Shabda Artha or the word and meaning will not formulate a language. There is also idea based on meaning. So word, its meaning and idea. So these are the three components needed for a language, be that human language or any other language. So Shabda Artha Pratyaya. Shabda means the word. Artha means meaning of it, the word. Pratyaya means idea, notion, concept of that word. So, how to understand this? So the example was given to you while we were discussing Samapatti. Shabdata Jnana Vikalpaihi Sankirna Savitarka Samapatti was the sutra. And there we had this Shabdartha Jnana concept. And now here Shabdartha Pratyaya. So Pratyaya comes for the Jnana there. Now what are these three things? If I utter word cow and ask you, what did you hear? Your answer is cow. Now what is this cow? Cow is a particular kind of cattle which has certain characteristics, particular kind of shape and characteristics. It has two horns. It has a typical kind of face. It has a fleshy part hanging under the throat. Then it has a typical specific shape. It has 4 legs. And it has 4 studs to milking the cow. It has a tail. So, there is animal and cattle which is described as cow. So cow is a cattle, cow is an animal. And a particular kind of animal is called cow. It has certain characteristics, features, form. So that is the artha. So suppose there are cattle grazing on the field, and there are cows which are grazing on the field, and if I ask you, pointing out at particular cattle, and I ask you what is that, again your answer is cow. Then, having heard the word cow or having seen object cow, if I ask you what is in your mind, again your answer is cow. So there are 3 cows. One is representing the word cow. The other one is representing the object cow, which is grazing, which is a living, animate being grazing on the field. So that is the meaning of the word cow. And then there is knowledge about the cow in your mind. Cognition, idea, notion in your mind. So, all the three are cows. All the three are cows. Shabdatmak cow, Arthatmak cow and Pratyatmak cow. They are all cows. But how are they? One is phonetic form, cow, which is uttered through the mouth, oral organ, vocal organ, utterance of the word cow. So that is a phonetic form. While the animal grazing, the cattle grazing on the field, has skin, flesh, muscles, bones, blood, organs, shape, form, particular color. So, it is made up of body matter. The object cow is made up of body matter. Body matter of animate being, living being. So that is what the real cow at sight is, that it is animal and it is living form. And while the third one is idea within your mind. It's a cognition within your mind. It is memory within your mind. So these are three different cows. Shabdatmaka, Arthatmaka, Pratyayatmaka. But all the three are cows. All the three are called cow. And therefore, there is itaretar adhyasa, mutual imposition. The shabda gets imposed on artha, artha gets imposed on jnana, shabda gets imposed on jnana, jnana gets imposed on artha, artha, shabda, jnana gets imposed on shabda. Because they are all cows, all the three are cows. And therefore, there is itaretar adhyas, mutual impositions. And because of mutual impositions, there is a mix-up. Tat sankaraha. There is a mix-up. Although there is distinction that one is phonetic cow, other one is cow with body matter, living body matter, and the third one is knowledge form, which is idea in the mind, concept in the mind. So their materials are totally different. So material of the phonetic cow is words made up of literal letters. That's the material of phonetic cow. While the material of living cow outside, the real cow which is grazing on the field, the material of it is body matter, living body matter, animate body matter. And a matter of pratyaya is idea within the mind. The mind is the material of pratyaya. So in all the three cases, the materials are changing. This should be understood. And yet there is itaretara adhyasa. Still there is imposition, mutual imposition. Although the one is phonetic cow and the other one is object cow and the third one is knowledge cow, yet although materials are totally different, yet there is a mix-up. And there is imposition and mix-up. This is a strange thing. So, The yogi is able to have pravibhagam, that is division. And then when there is samyama on this division, the yogi gets Sarva Bhuta Jnanam. So this is what Patanjali is mentioning in the Siddhi here, with the aphorism that he has given. Shabdartha pratyanam itaretra adhyasat tat sankarastat parivibhaga samyamat sarva bhuta ruta jnanam. There is mutual imposition. This is a strange thing. Although they are not identical, because usually impositions take place in what is seemingly identical. There is very similitude or similarity, and therefore we impose. We don't impose fire on water and water on fire. We don't impose water on flame and flame on water, because of the dissimilarity. So we do not impose a pot on cloth and cloth on pot because of dissimilarity. So for imposition there is some similarity, very similitude, and that is why impositions take place. And here it is to be taken note of that there is imposition taking place between Shabda, Artha, Pratyaya. In our example, Shabdatmak cow, Arthatmak cow, Jnanatmak or Pratyayatmak cow. Although we just now saw that the materials of all these three are totally different, distinct, yet there is imposition. But actually they are separable. There is pruthakatvam, there is separability, and in that separability there is that pruthakatvam, and when there is a samyama on the pruthakatvam, when there is samyama on the division, that gives a siddhi in the form of Sarva Bhuta Ruta Jnanam. That second stage of our explanation, let's say like this, it is like this. Suppose it's a dog barking. The dog will be barking for several reasons. So there is something in the mind of the dog, and therefore the dog barks. Maybe the dog is afraid and it is barking. The dog wants to attack and launch an offensive, and therefore it is barking. The dog, which is your gatekeeper, security gatekeeper, it is not identifying the person who is at the gate, and therefore it barks. When the unknown person is at the gate, your pet dog would be barking. When the dog is hungry, it would be barking. When the dog is angry, it would be barking. When the dog wants something, it will be barking. When the dog doesn't want something but that is around, it will be barking. So there is something in the mind whereby the dog barks. So what underlies the bark of a dog is the content of the mind, the state of the mind. That is why it barks. And then it has some knowledge or cognition and perception, therefore it barks. It has some pratyaya that this is unknown person at the gate, therefore it barks. There is hunger, it wants something to eat and therefore it barks. The food is not around and it wants food and therefore it barks. So, although the dog would be barking, and for us the bark might be identical, similar, yet why the dog barks is because of the different reasons. because of different pratyaya and because of the different purpose that is in the mind of the dog. So, in case of a pet dog, one who is the caretaker of the dog or one who is possessing the dog will understand why the dog is barking. Somebody is at the gate and therefore it is barking. It is hungry, therefore it is barking. It is angry, therefore it is barking. So when it is a pet dog, the master will know why the dog is barking. Why? How does he know? Because there is something in the mind which the master is able to read. So there is always something in the mind of creatures and animals. The birds have their chirping sounds, there are cries of the birds, etc. There are different sounds of different animals. So animals have the sound forms, they bark or they cry. Cry in the sense, not what we take in human language, the crying, but the sound itself is called crying. So they produce a sound because of something in the mind, something underlies in the mind, and therefore they produce a sound. So, what is the pravibhaga here? The dog is barking, it's a sound form. Why the dog is barking? There is something in the mind, therefore it barks. There is a particular thing in the mind, therefore it is barking that way. Its barks will be different actually, depending upon why the dog is barking. So, the yogi is able to have division, that this is the bark, this is why it is bark, this is in its mind and therefore it is barking. So a yogi is able to have division of this, and that division becomes locus of samyama, and therefore he is able to know why exactly and actually the dog is barking. So he is able to read the mind of the dog, what the dog is trying to convey by its bark will be known by knowing the language of the dog's bark. So many times the masters with regards to their pet dogs are able to identify the mind of the dog because it is their pet dog. So they know that this is in the mind and therefore the dog is barking. So this pravibhaga, this classification that this is sound, this is the purpose of its sound, and this is its cognition behind the bark, behind the sound, its experience or its intent, why it is barking. So all that gets division and can be divided because of the three factors which we saw, that Shabda, Artha, Pratyaya. And when the samyama is taking place on that division, then that gives rise to Sarva Bhuta Jnanam. We as commoners, lay people cannot understand what the birds are suggesting, communicating by their chirping sounds in the morning. We know that the birds are chirping. There are cries of animals. We do not know why they are crying. But there is something behind their cries, their sounds, and that is why they produce that sound. And division of it will be giving rise to this Siddhi. So that is what the Sutra 2.17 is telling us. Now, I try to decipher the Sutra for you to understand what Patanjali is saying for this particular Siddhi. So let's try to take a dip into this Sutra and in its purport. The purport is opened out by Vyasa. So let's try to look into Vyasa's commentary. What is he trying to tell us? What is the Sutra suggesting? So the human organ of speech produces Shabda made up of Varna, Dhvani, Pada. Shabda means Varna, Dhvani, Pada. Literal letters and the words. Now these words are uttered by mouth for the ears to be hearing it. Otherwise, utterance has no meaning. If there is no auditory organ, then the words are of no meaning. If there is no one to hear what you say, your saying has no meaning. So, what is this Shabda? Shabda is something that is uttered. It is to be uttered. The word is for utterance. The word is uttered. That's how it manifests. Shrotram cha dhvani parinama matra vishayam. And the auditory organ, the ear, only registers dhvani parinama of the Shabda. It only catches the sound element in the word. Like we took the example of the word cow. Now what is this word cow? Phonetically, you will be able to break it. There is k and there is ow. So there are literal letters, phonetic factors. And they have a dhvani parinama, and therefore you get to hear the word cow. We hear the dhvani parinama, the sound form behind the speech organs, sound production. It produces a sound, and in the word cow that we took as an example, the first literal letter is k, and then comes ow, cow. Then it becomes a word. If I just say k at this moment, and after a while, long while, I say ow, you won't take it as cow. I must utter in quick succession. A word like, let us take a little longer word here for example, comprehension. So there are phonetic factors, comprehension. K, A, P, R, I, Pri, H, A, He, Sh, N. So there are phonetic factors. Now if I break these phonetic factors and leave a long gap, unduly a long gap, you won't get the word comprehension. So if I say ka, and after a long gap I say and after a long gap I say pri, after a long gap I say he, after a long gap I say and after a long gap I say sh, and long gap I say n, you don't get the word comprehension. Oh, it must be uttered in quick succession. Although there are literal factors of literal letters or phonetic factors are there in every word, they need to be uttered in quick succession, like the word comprehension. I must utter each phonetic factor in quick succession, then the ears will be able to understand the word, register the word as comprehension. But if I take gaps and do not utter in quick succession, or I utter it very, very, very slow motion, or I utter with breaks, dividing the phonetic factors, you won't get the word, although you might hear the sounds. So, the word is made up of so many phonetic factors. That's called padam. Padam means word. Padam punaha nadanu samhara buddhi nirgrahya iti. So, when I utter a word, the phonetic factors come in quick succession, which means that the earlier factor goes away and second factor comes up. I cannot simultaneously utter two phonetic factors. So, nadanu samhara. If I write word comprehension, you will get the whole spelling of it, and you will get the word. But when I utter it, the phonetic spelling, earlier spelling goes away and later spelling only stays, and then there is a succession. If I write the word comprehension, comprehension, all those letters are there. But when I utter comprehension, the ka is gone, then comes pri, then comes is gone, then comes pri, the pri goes and then comes hen, and hen goes and then comes shan. So this is how there is upasamhara, nadanu samhara, there is dhvani samhara. I cannot utter phonetic forms simultaneously in one stroke, but I have to utter one after the other phonetic factors. But it is comprehended by buddhi. Although earlier phonetic factors are gone, they are registered in the buddhi, and buddhi says what was uttered was comprehension. So after the nadanu samhara, after the sound have ended, when I complete the word comprehension, and if I ask you what did I say, you will say comprehension. I have to end my utterance. Only when I end my utterance of the word, the phonetic word, then only you will say that I uttered the word comprehension. So after dhvani is gone, sound form is gone, then only you realize I said comprehension. And the buddhi grasps that. Now actually it is a marvel, but we do not appreciate the marvel of buddhi. It has advertence on all those phonetic components of that word. The more longer the word, it has that much of comprehension, it has that much of registration of it, and then it declares that you uttered the word comprehension. So the buddhi will be making all those phonetic components as its object of the object, like the word comprehension, and then it will declare that this was the word comprehension. And therefore he says, Padam punah nadana samvaram buddhi nirgrahyam iti. It is comprehensible for the buddhi. And the buddhi tells you about the word. And that is in grammar called padaspota. That means the word becomes crystal clear after its utterance. So this is a marvel that we don't understand. That phonetic factors are coming one after the other, and they only come when the previous is gone, the latter can come in. My mouth cannot be containing calm and then the pre coming there. The calm has to end and then the pre will come. The pre has to end and then hen will come. Hen has to go and then shan will come. So what is gone is also a subject matter that is registered by the buddhi, and then it declares that the word uttered was comprehension. So it should be understood that all these phonetic forms cannot be simultaneously uttered. They have to be uttered one after the other, and that too in quick succession. They are vagukta. They are uttered by the vak. And actually they are not related to each other. But after the word is uttered, then we get the idea of the word. Like comprehension, the com is followed by prehension. Therefore it becomes comprehension. But the com can be preceded by complete, completions. So you'll get the com phonetic form in different words. It will come as opening phonetic factor. So try to understand how many words from lexicon, try to understand how many words originate from the first phonetic factor like com, competition, completion, comprehension, complex. So you will get the com in so many words. So the following literal factors are not related to each other, but yet they kind of work on each other and give you a word. And that is why these phonetic factors are actually giving bounty to following phonetic factors, although they are independently not related to each other. Like in the word apple, a is the first phonetic factor. A can come as a first phonetic factor in so many words. Apple, amplification, and then you can look into the dictionary how many words commence from a. Attitude, amplitude, a will come in so many places. That means they are not related to each other, yet they do anugraha on each other, and that's why you get the word. So that's an interesting divergence given by Bhashyakar. Te padam asprushya anupasthapya Avirbhuta tirobhutascha iti pratyekam apadam swarupa uchyante. So all these varnas are swatantra, they are independent, and they may not be forming a pada, a word. And they therefore will not be giving any arthatvam, but they appear and disappear. They come and go. And therefore each varna is apada rupa. But it potentially can turn out a word, but actually it is not a word. There is no word in a literal or phonetic factor, but it can turn out. It doesn't potentially have it, but it can turn out. So little linguistic analysis have taken place, which is so interesting. Anyway, the point to be noted that these phonetic forms, factors, they come in quick succession, and the order of succession can change for different words. Apple, aptitude, amplitude, ample. Everywhere a is coming as an opening phonetic form. So it can have different deliveries. So this is how the word sound form is analyzed by Vyasa. And that is interesting point to be taken note of. Because we have to ultimately understand how does this Siddhi come about. And therefore this kind of terse argument is coming. We are not able to still identify from what has been said how does this Siddhi come about. But we have to open out all these factors which Vyasa has commenced to explain. So he explains this aspect of Shabda, and that is Dhvani Parinama. It is Vagukta, it is of oratory organ, and this particular specific thing that it has to be uttered in quick succession, and then the previous phonetic factor gets related to the next factor. Apple, amplitude, attitude. So the first phonetic form can get related to so many other manifestation of words, and that is why they should be uttered in quick succession. Because if I just say a, you are not sure whether I am going to utter apple or attitude or amplitude or any word that commences from a. And that's why this quick succession is an important condition. And then that phonetic form which otherwise doesn't have any potential to turn out, it turns out a word. That's something very mysterious. Anyway, it's quite a terse subject matter that we are dealing with. So let us end the session today with this, and let us proceed from this in our next session. So namaskar all of you.